Bethany's hope, passing the puck, and sculptured success. This is Behind the News.
Good evening and welcome once again to Behind the News. I'm Bob Smith. Tonight, the story of a London family with 7 healthy children, up until last August when their 2.5-year-old Bethany was diagnosed with a rare hereditary disorder, one similar to the condition portrayed in the film Lorenzo's Oil, starring Susan Sarandon and Nick Nolte. The McIntyres, too, are fighting back. They're racing against the clock to raise funds for research. Jane Graham and cameraman Wayne Jennings have this touching story of Bethany's hope.
Bethany McIntyre is a beautiful 2.5-year-old girl. The youngest of 7 children, she began her life as healthy and active as any other youngster. She went on to learn her numbers and letters. She spent lots of time building her Lego, and she loved to watch the movie The Lion King. The words Lion King would be the last Bethany would ever speak. 6 months after this family portrait was taken, Bethany can only lie in her father's arms, the victim of a rare hereditary disorder called Metachromatic Leukodystrophy, or MLD. She was diagnosed with late infantile MLD last August.
In Bethany's case, MLD, late infantile, is probably the most rapid deterioration of the central nervous system as you get.
MLD is a disease of the myelin, a membrane which insulates every nerve of the brain and spinal cord and assures the conduction of nerve impulses. In those who suffer from MLD, a missing enzyme causes the stripping away of the myelin. The child develops a walking disorder, speech abnormalities, and experiences a general halting of mental development. Eventually, they lose the ability to make voluntary movements, lose mental abilities, and are unable to speak. There is no known cure, and death for these children usually occurs within 3 to 6 years. Because the disease is hereditary, the fact Bethany was the only McIntyre child to get it is amazing.
With 6 other children, and this disease never surfacing before, this was at the point when we were given the diagnosis was, there's no way. This can't be, there's a problem here. It must be something similar to, but it's got to be something else.
I mean, it was almost daily. You lost a little more, right down to when she first stopped standing up in the crib, you know, and stopped feeding herself, or then the last bit of losing her ability to hold her bottle, and then really, of course, the swallowing, which is why she ended up with the G-tube. Her ability to sit is probably one of the hardest things to have lost.
On the day we met Bethany, she was having a difficult time digesting the formula she was fed through a tube. The result was constipation and gas. The pain seems too much for one so small to bear. The pain is also a source of frustration for Bethany's parents, who are often at wit's end as to what to do to help their daughter.
I think the best approach when every day with her is that there isn't any plan.
There's no plan. Don't make plans because then you're disappointed.
For the McIntyres, life has changed dramatically since Bethany's diagnosis. The family had just moved from London to Toronto last year when Dave was transferred with the RCMP. He then received a rare humanitarian transfer back to London in November, where the McIntyres feel the medical care is first-rate and close to home, which is of utmost importance when you have 6 other children who also need both parents. Bethany's disease has enabled Dave and Lindy to discover the true meaning of friends, many of whom have extended a helpful hand, whether it comes in the form of a casserole for dinner or a ride to the library for the kids. They also have nothing but praise for those in the medical community who have offered their help and support. Carol Ray is one of them. She practices therapeutic touch, an ancient healing technique used to manage pain and illness. Dr. Fabian Gorodinsky is another, who has made himself readily available to the McIntyres whenever the need arises.
The problem with conditions like MLD is that the children deteriorate. This is not a static condition. This is also not a condition where the parents are going to see improvement. So I have to be very alert when things change and be on the one hand supportive of the family, and on the other hand be in tune with what the needs are going to be for Bethany at that particular time when the deterioration occurs.
Bethany's only hope lies in research currently being conducted at the University of Pittsburgh. Dr. John Barranger is working on a treatment that would replace the missing enzyme which is destroying Bethany's myelin. While this research is still in the experimental stage, there is a possibility human trials could begin soon, and Bethany is a good candidate. But research like this takes a lot of money, and the McIntyres are doing what they can to raise it.
So we've said right from the start, we're not going to lose her without a fight. And if we can't fight medically, maybe we can help the medical people fight for us.
For the McIntyres, this fight is a race against the clock.
You know, we're hoping that, you know, we can raise, like I say, a few $100,000 as quickly as we can and send it south to Dr. Barranger, and he can work his magic, work a miracle.
Lindy and Dave McIntyre will travel to Pittsburgh to meet with Dr. Barranger later this month to discuss his research.